caught in lace. Now Mom makes me wear it every day. I never imagined a single stupid mistake could upend everything I thought I knew about myself. My name is Ryan Carter. I'm 20, a college sophomore scraping by living at home to save rent. From the outside, I look like any quiet, sensible guy. Computer science major, part-time at the tech shop, dating a wonderful girl named Emma for almost a year. Nobody would suspect what I keep secret. Not a soul. Not Emma. It began as a furtive curiosity. I admired how Emma moved when she dressed up, how a fitted dress gave her a kind of fearless posture, how heels elongated her stride and changed the way people noticed her. There was a magnetism to it that made me envy the confidence it seemed to give. Sometimes late at night, I found myself watching makeup tutorials, lingering in storefront windows, wondering what a satin slit might feel like on my skin. The thought felt dangerous, and I never told anyone. Not Emma. I feared her reaction. Mockery, confusion, abandonment, so I locked the impulse away. Then one weekend, everything aligned in the worst possible way. Emma was away with friends. Mom had driven to visit my aunt. The house was empty. Free. I should have been burying myself in a coding project due Monday, but instead I hovered outside my mother's bedroom and finally opened the closet door I'd been peeking into for years. She was a fashion consultant, always immaculate, always theatrical, and her wardrobe was enormous. Lace-trimmed dresses, silk blouses, towering heels, and drawers of lingerie that seemed to belong in a different life. My fingers stroked a pale pink satin slip, and heat ran through me. The fabric felt impossibly soft. I told myself I'd only look, but temptation doesn't negotiate. Before I knew it, I had slipped jeans and a hoodie off and pulled the slip over my head. It hugged my chest and hips like a secret the mirror could keep. I added lacy panties, a bralette stuffed with tissue for shape, and tights that clung to my legs like a second skin. In front of the mirror, I hardly recognized the person reflected back. Vulnerable, startled, and intoxicatingly pretty. I brushed on a little blush, tinted my lips with a soft rose, and laughed at my own audacity. I twirled once, the hem tickling my thighs, and felt a small, thrilled giggle escape me. For a dizzy moment, it felt like freedom. Then the front door creaked. Someone had come home. My heart slammed against my ribs. I yanked off the heels and crept to the stairwell, still wearing my mother's lingerie, makeup smudged from my fingers. There she stood at the bottom of the stairs, grocery bags in hand, frozen as if she'd walked into a scene she hadn't expected. Time turned to glass between us. "Ryan, what are you wearing?" she asked, plain words that felt like an accusation. I expected anger, screaming, humiliation. I expected exile from the house I'd always known as mine. What I didn't expect was what came next. She set the bags down, climbed the stairs toward me without breaking eye contact, and said something that chilled me deeper than a shout ever would. Calmly, as if laying out the pieces of an appointment, she told me this was not the end of the story, but the beginning of an education. That was 3 days ago. Since then, the furniture of my life has been rearranged. I assumed punishment, grounding, yelling, embarrassed lectures. Instead, Mom adopted a tone I've only ever seen when she's prepping a client for a high-profile shoot. Clinical, efficient, and unervingly gentle. "You crossed the line yesterday," she said the next morning, one hand on a hanger, the other twirling a makeup brush. "There's no going back. But I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to guide you." Her version of guidance looked nothing like punishment. It looked like instruction, like lessons scheduled on a calendar. She wrapped me in a silk robe after my shaky shower and began handing me garments the way a teacher hands out textbooks: lavender lace panties, a matching bralette, high-waisted shapewear that smoothed and lifted, then a slip that clung like a promise. She stepped behind me in front of the vanity and arranged my silhouette with the practiced touch she uses on brides. "You have your father's cheekbones," she murmured, contouring with a brush. "With the right shaping, you're quite delicate." Delicate. The word made something flutter. Part shame, part aching longing. She shadowed my jaw with powder, brushed a rosy sheen across my cheeks, taught me to line my eyes. It felt methodical, almost clinical, as if I were a new project on her roster, a client who needed transformation. Day 2 brought lessons in rhythm. How to walk in heels without wobbling, how to hold a glass, how to turn your head. She laced me into a pair of silver pumps and demonstrated, each step a model of grace. My legs shook, my balance betrayed me. And then the doorbell rang. Panic detonated in my chest. Mom's eyes flashed, then narrowed into the calm of a person who plans contingencies. She answered the door while I darted behind the closet door, heart hammering, stockings whispering against the wood. It was our neighbor, Mrs. Langford, talky and suspiciously friendly. Their conversations stretched like elastic while I stood squeezed and sweating behind fabric and hangers, a vision the house was never meant to hide. When the door clicked shut and I emerged, my face slick with sweat, Mom simply raised an eyebrow. "That's why we plan things," she said, as if the whole episode were a lesson in timing. By the third day, my resistance had frayed. The routine, the ritual of mascara, the zip of a dress, carried a strange comfort. It was terrifying how easy the small things became, applying liner without shaking, pulling on stockings until they sat smooth, the soft click of heels on tile as I practiced across hardwood floors. Each layer peeled away a bit of the old Ryan until I began to wonder who remained beneath the satin. Still, worry never left me. What about Emma? What about work? The fear sat like a stone behind my ribs. Every night I replayed the day. How the stockings hugged my legs, the tiny satisfying click of heels, the expression on Mom's face when I applied eyeliner exactly right. Under those flashes of guilty pleasure, a darker anxiety grew. This could not be sustainable. Someone would find out. Someone always does. Then, on day 4, Mom's phone vibrated and my stomach dropped. "Emma's coming back early tomorrow," she said without looking up as she dabbed blush on my cheeks. The words landed like my hand shook, and I dropped the lipstick. "Tomorrow?" I croaked. I had banked on more time, more private practice, more distance. Panic surged. What am I going to do? Mom tilted her head, considering me the way a jeweler studies a stone. "Do you want to tell her?" she asked. "No," I snapped too quickly. "Not like this. Not now." I was breathless. I meant that with every part of me. "Then be careful," she said, entirely calm. "You'll have to be cautious." That night sleep fled me. My mind spun with scenarios I couldn't test, confessing and losing Emma, pretending and being exposed, the slow erosion of privacy until every small pleasure turned into potential ruin. Emma's return loomed like weather on the horizon. Mom's guidance didn't stop for crisis. She set a plan for concealment and practice. She taught me layering, how to combine a loose sweater over a form-fitting dress so only a casual observer would notice the silhouette. She gave me coaching on conversation diversion techniques, how to redirect a remark away from my chest or hands. She rehearsed excuses and schedules, checked my phone secretly, and tightened the perimeter around what I did and when I did it. It was humiliating and addictive in equal measure. The brush of mascara felt like theft and tenderness at once. Her approval, soft, approving comments at the edge of each lesson, stung and soothed. When she looked at me with pride after I managed heels in the hallway, something in my chest clenched and panged with contradictory relief. And always the worry hummed underneath. If Emma came home tomorrow, would I be ready to be normal? Or would the person who put on stockings and lipstick be the person I'd become? The fear that I might prefer this new version of me lurked at the edge of every practice smile. The night before Emma's return, I sat on my bed in the robe she'd insisted I keep and rehearsed the words I would say if she asked. I pictured Emma's face shifting from confusion to concern to maybe anger. I pictured her leaving. I pictured everything shattering. When Emma finally walked through the door the next afternoon, Mom greeted her at the threshold carrying grocery bags and wearing a smile that was all radiance and steel. I stood just inside the living room, knees numb, layered in ambiguity beneath a loose sweater. She hugged Mom and then turned. Her eyes swept the room and landed on me. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. "What's going on?" Emma asked, face searching. "Calm," I told myself to be calm. I forced a laugh that sounded like paper. Mom answered for me with a practiced ease that made my throat close. Oh, Ryan's been under the weather, sore throat. He's been staying in soft clothes to rest. Nothing to worry about. Emma smiled and moved closer, concern softening her features. She wrapped her arm around me in a casual, affectionate way, pressing in a question with the warmth of routine. I felt her fingers find my jaw, a gesture so familiar I wanted to melt into it. My heart pounded, and I wanted to tell her, to fling off the lie, but the rehearsed phrases were lodged in my mouth like pills I couldn't swallow. Her scent, Emma's, filled my head, citrus and laundry detergent. She pressed closer, and I felt the weight of what could be revealed in the space of one breath. I'd practiced my way through just this possibility so many times with Mom, how to deflect, how to steer the conversation to friends, impending assignments, a funny story from class. I used the techniques that night like a novice actor, and they were clumsy but serviceable. Later, when Emma and Mom left the room to catch up, my hands shook as I exhaled. The relief was temporary, like a pause between thunderclaps. I had made it through the first step, but the long game remained terrifying. What would happen if Emma found a drawer, a misplaced receipt, a lipstick stain? How long could this lie withstand everyday life? The laundry, the living room, a casual touch that revealed tights. Mom watched me that night with that same patient intensity she applied to her clients. She tucked a strand of hair behind my ear as if to calm me and whispered, "Well, be careful." Her hand felt both protective and possessive. In the private quiet between them, she'd already mapped the way forward: practice, camouflage, and a life rearranged to keep my secret safe beneath layers of fabric and excuses. The thrill never quite left me, nor the shame. Each day became a strange negotiation between fear and fascination. Some nights I would lie awake and remember how the stockings hugged my legs, the precise click of heels on tile, and the almost tender expression on Mom's face when I lined my eyes without shaking. Those moments felt impossibly intimate and terrifyingly permanent. And all the while the question that kept sliding under my skin like a splinter remained. What if I don't want to stop? What if she walked in on me mid-eyeliner, full lingerie, and everything? The thought made my stomach flip, but the idea of never dressing like that again felt like a different kind of ache. Day 5, I tried to stop. The next morning I told Mom I wanted to quit, really quit. I meant it at first, desperate to claw back the normal life I'd known. She didn't explode. She folded a pale blue Brian panty set and laid it on my bed as if presenting a choice on a tray. "If you're done for the right reasons, that's fine," she said quietly. "But if you're only stopping because you're scared, you're lying to yourself." Her words followed me all day like a shadow. By evening I found myself back at the mirror, trembling hands fumbling with lace. I told myself it would be the last time, one final private rehearsal before I burned the habit out of me. The lace slid against my skin, cool and intimate. Habit and hunger warred inside my chest. Day 6, Emma came home. She stepped through the door with a suitcase and stories, radiant from her trip. I met her in hoodie and jeans, no makeup, no stockings, a patchwork of practiced normality. She hugged me like nothing had changed, pressed a kiss to my cheek. But something had. I couldn't hold her eyes for long. Guilt clung to me like smoke. That night on the couch, she rested her head on my shoulder and whispered, "I missed you. Everything okay?" I lied that I was tired, and she kissed my forehead, trusting. Part of me secretly wanted the lavender slip under my sweater, the softness pressed against my skin as a small, illicit comfort. Day 7. Suspicion. The next morning she rummaged through the bathroom drawers and held up a tube of rosy pink lipstick I'd forgotten to put away. My heart stopped. "Is this yours?" she asked, casual as a weather comment, but like a probe. "Must be Mom's," I said too quickly. She didn't press it then, but her eyes stayed on me in a way that unsettled. That evening, across the table, she watched me with a caution I'd never seen before. At bed, the question I'd been dreading finally came. "Are you hiding something from me?" I opened my mouth and closed it again. The next morning I sat at the vanity wearing my mother's robe, a base of foundation, a soft coral on my lips. The bra beneath felt like a second skin, no longer foreign but familiar in a way that terrified me. I told myself this would be the last time. One last session to close the door. Mom hovered behind me, hands smoothing my shoulders, adjusting my collarbone with the same autopilot gentleness she used on clients. "You look calm today," she said. "You can't live your whole life pretending. That's not peace. That's hiding." Before I could answer, a voice drifted. "Emma, Ryan, does anyone know where my charger is?" Panic hit like a current. Mom's head snapped toward the walk-in closet. "Go get it," she said, urgency thin in her tone. I bolted, knocking heels across hardwood as I slipped into the closet and shut the door. My chest heaved. Through the slats, I listened as Emma poked around the vanity, eyes curious. "Is someone here?" she called. Mom, smooth as always, replied. "Just me." Emma reached for a brush, something that hadn't been on the counter yesterday, and paused, brow furrowing. "You're not the only one using this, are you?" she asked lightly. Silent dread pooled in me so hard I thought I would choke. Mom smiled and deflected, calm, casual, practiced. The moment passed, but it left a residue of mistrust. Emma was quieter the next day, more tentative with touches, her laughter slightly delayed. At lunch she said, "You've been different." She searched my face, as if reading a note written in invisible ink. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe I'm just stressed. But my life was unspooling. At work a coworker joked, "Carter, your skin looks clearer. Girlfriend's beauty routine?" Everyone laughed. I managed to laugh, but it felt hollow. He'd hit a truth that made me squirm. That night, I made a reckless choice. Emma was at her cousin's engagement party, no invite for me, Mom out at a client dinner. The house was mine for 5 hours. I stood before the closet and chose deliberately. A burgundy slip dress with a low back, black lace stockings, matching heels. It took forever to coax the fabric over my head, to hitch the hem to a place that looked flattering, to smooth the tights so no seam betrayed me. When I finally faced the mirror, I felt gorgeous in a way that made me dizzy. I walked downstairs, the dress moving with me, the heels clicking, an over-practiced model giving herself the private performance she'd rehearsed alone. I posed in the living room mirror. Glance over the shoulder, bite the lip, a shy smile practiced to look spontaneous. Then the front door eased open. Emma stood framed in the doorway, suitcase at her feet, eyes scanning the room, and then locking on me. For a split second she looked stunned, then betrayed, then stunned again. "Oh my God," she breathed. "Ryan." Silence collapsed heavy as a slab. She stared down at me. The dress clinging, stockings shaping my legs, mascara on my lashes, gloss on my mouth. Her face assembled the pieces into comprehension. "Tell me this is a joke," she whispered. "I didn't mean for you to see me like this," I said. My voice failed. "I didn't know how to tell you." She didn't reply at first. She sat hard on the couch, fingers dug into her knees. "You've been sneaking around wearing lingerie?" she said finally, like she was reading an accusation off a page. "I didn't mean to betray you," I managed. I tried to explain. Curiosity, the way it started small, the shame that kept me hiding. I told her about Mom, about how it had begun as a secret and become something I couldn't stop. "Sometimes it was Mom's things," I said. "Sometimes it—" I tried to be careful. Her reaction was a complex thing. Hurt and confusion knotted together. "How long?" she asked, counting back months in her head. When I answered a few months, the pieces slotted into place. The lipstick in the drawer, the odd moods, the evasive answers. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice cracked. "I was afraid," I said, "of losing you, of losing everything." I meant it. My chest ached from the confession. Emma looked away as tears collected in my eyes. "You should have trusted me," she said quietly, and then she walked out of the room. I collapsed on the carpet, dumb, raw, hollow. I peeled the wig off my head and shoved it aside. I wanted to burn the skirts, rip the stockings until they frayed, scrub my face until nothing of that person remained. But even through the wreckage, I felt a truth that didn't fit tidy. This wasn't just a prank or a phase. It was something inside me that had finally found its edges, and Emma had just seen them. I stayed buried in the quiet for more than an hour before Mom came home. The house smelled like lavender and the faint residue of her perfume, the same scent that had accompanied so many of our sessions. She entered with her usual controlled calm and found me on the floor, eyes puffy, mascara smudged. "Are you all right?" she asked, voice soft but precise. I looked up, and in that moment her expression shifted from concern to a kind of bureaucratic assessment, what needed fixing, what next steps. She crouched down, hands gentle around my face, and said, "We'll handle this. We'll make sure she understands." Her tone was almost professional. Mother, then manager of the crisis. Emma didn't return to the living room that evening. Later, through a closed door, I heard her door click and the stifled sound of a phone being gripped. I had told her, and the world rearranged itself around the truth. Nothing would be the same. She found me huddled in the hallway, half-dressed, mascara smeared, eyes rimmed red. Her look was soft, not furious. She asked quietly if I was okay. I nodded, words strangled in my throat, and she stepped away. Mom knelt before me, lifted my chin with two careful fingers, and said something that made my chest ache with confusion and a tiny shard of hope. "This was bound to happen," she murmured. "Maybe it's better she knows." Her voice was measured. "She isn't going to hate you. She's hurt right now. Confused. She might come back." A pause, then the kind of hug I hadn't felt in a long time. "You're not broken, Ryan. You're beginning to understand who you are." Later, when the house was small and quiet again, I stood before the full-length mirror. The burgundy dress lay crumpled on the floor, one heel half-tucked beneath the coffee table. My hair stuck out in an ungainly halo, lip gloss smudged, mascara running like a map of the night. I felt split down the middle, part boy, part something else. Then I did a thing that surprised me. I picked the dress up and slipped it back on. No tears this time. I walked to the glass slow, as if testing the water, and met my own eyes. Fragile, yes. Unsure, yes. But not ashamed. For the first time, the face looking back seemed honest. The next day Emma texted, "We need to talk. Can I come over tonight?" My stomach flipped. I spent the day pacing, hands cold, trying to look ordinary. Mom helped, calming the house, smoothing laundry, pressing a hoodie I had no intention of wearing. When the doorbell rang, I nearly dropped my phone. Emma stood on the threshold in a beige trench, arms folded, expression unreadable. "I'm shocked," she said before anything else, sharper than surprise, kinder than anger. She paced me with eyes that weighed details like evidence. "I want honesty. No more lies." Her voice was precise, final. I told the truth as best as I could. "It started as curiosity," I said. "It became comfort. Now, it wasn't something I could ignore." "I don't want to stop," I told her. The words hung between us, like an unlit fuse. She took a breath, looked at me for a long minute, and then stepped forward. "I'm not saying I understand this," she said slowly, "but I want to try. I care about you. We'll have to rebuild trust." Relief nearly undid me. She hesitated at the door, then turned back with a face I will never forget. She reached into her coat and pulled out a red satin nightgown. My eyes followed it like a needle to thread. "You wore this too," she said. Her voice was soft and edged with hurt. "Your secret isn't just between us anymore." After she left, I sat on the bed and stared at the ceiling. I thought the crisis was over, except for a new fear that glittered cold and sharp. Someone else had seen me. A text arrived from an unknown number. "You looked beautiful in that red nightgown. Want to know who I am?" My hands went numb. Someone had a photo. Someone had my number. Emma's voice tailed into the accident of discovery. She'd found the gown tucked behind a dresser, hidden like contraband. Then she showed me the message on her phone. A blocked number, a note about, "Your boy looking good last night." My face went hot. Was it a prank? A stalker? A professional photographer's curiosity? None of it fit. Panic pushed me past reason. I searched through every memory of doors opened, curtains left ajar. Had I been seen from the street? I unplugged webcams, taped over lenses, pulled blinds until the house felt like a box. I slept with lights on, the gown shoved under my bed like a fossil. The messages didn't stop. Nice heels. Love that pink slip. Don't worry, your secret's safe with me. Each one scraped away my calm. Emma needed space. She stayed with her sister. Mom tightened like a sentinel, locking windows, watching the street, scanning who came to the door. Someone's watching, she said in that calm tone that had quietly run our lives since I was a kid. We can't keep pretending nothing's happening. The messages escalated from coy to chilling. A cigarette's glow blinked across the street one night, then vanished, a sign that the watcher was real. An envelope appeared under the front door, a printed photo of me in the red gown taken through the bedroom window. Folded inside was a note. I can help you become who you really are. You'll hear from me soon. Signed, a friend. The photo should have felt purely like threat. Instead, it stirred something else. Fear braided with a dangerous, aching curiosity. What if the stranger's offer was what I had always wanted, spoken without shame? If so, who paid the price? Mom wanted action. Tell the right people, she said finally. Maybe Emma. Maybe someone else. Her voice shook a little on maybe. My panic and longing warred. I wanted to confess to protect myself. I also wanted to protect the secret that had felt like shelter. Then the knocks began, soft and precise. A folded photograph slid under the door one night, and I opened it with trembling fingers. The same red gown image, the same cursive promise. The messages shifted tone. Don't worry, princess. I like what I see. Come find me. The anonymous voice on the video file that arrived 2 nights later was even more insistent. A blurry clip of a room and someone holding one of my dresses, a synthetic whisper. Come find me, princess. Each new contact shredded my sense of safety. The watcher, even the one who called himself a friend, had pried a hole in the bubble Mom had tried to build. She tightened our perimeter, changed locks, canvassed neighbors, filed a report, while privately coaching me to think through how I wanted to respond. I couldn't say I was ready to stop. The pull of that silk against my skin, the small electric thrill at a perfect application of mascara, the way my posture felt different when I wore certain clothes, all of it tugged at a place inside that had never belonged to the life I'd been handed. But now that others knew, the choice was no longer only mine. At night, alone in my windowless room, I would look at the messages and the printouts and whisper into the dark, who am I now? The mirror gave back the same mulish silence every time. Outside, a car idled once too long. A light shimmered at a corner. The messages kept coming. And, impossibly, in the middle of terror and exposure, a part of me, soft and stubborn, wanted to answer that anonymous call. It promised guidance, recognition, belonging. It promised a path forward when the map I'd always known had folded up and been tucked away. But it also whispered of loss, of Emma, perhaps, of a past life, of the quiet anonymity I had clung to. The night the video arrived, I stared at the tiny screen until the wavering playback finished. Someone entering a dim room with a dress and the voice, altered and inviting. The file had been sent with no return address. I sat frozen, heart like a trapped bird. The messages, the envelope, Emma's hurt, everything coiled tight. I couldn't tell whether I trembled with fear or something dangerously like anticipation. Either way, the world I knew had been split. The rest of my life, whatever it would be, would have to be built from the two halves.